Perfect. Great. Well, welcome everyone to the marketing committee meeting for June 7th. Libby, next slide. Just a reminder, today's call will be recorded, and you can join through phone or internet, and the next meeting coming up is going to be moved to July 12th. You should have received that updated invite since the prior week is a holiday in the United States. As I noted, this call will be recorded. Slides can be found in the marketing committee slide folder or on YouTube. Just part of our antitrust notice, let's make sure that we keep it involved in a neutral space, so we don't have to get the lawyers involved, and everything else that goes with that. So moving on to the next one. Just a quick highlight of our agenda. We're going to discuss KubeCon, Cloud Native Con EU recap. We'll do some highlights for humans of Cloud Native as well as Cilium training. Then we'll go into our CNCF team updates through the slides, specifically doing some call outs for KubeCon, Cloud Native Con North America, regarding the networking event for the marketing committee, as well as an update on when to expect project opportunities, and then a reminder that the CFP closes on June 18th. I want to kick this off with introducing our newest member to the marketing team, Melissa Smolinski. So I'll let her go ahead and greet all of you.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I joined CNCF a little over 2 months ago, so I'm fairly new, but I was at Amsterdam, so hopefully got to meet some of you all. I am VP of Marketing here at CNCF, and I've been in the community a long time. I used to work at a company called CoreOS back before even CNCF was around, but went to the first KubeCon. And then before this, worked at GitLab. And so anyways, it's awesome to see how much the ecosystem has grown since those early days that I was at CoreOS. And I'm excited to work with all of you.
Thanks, Mel. We're excited to have you here. Going into KubeCon, Cloud Native Con EU 2023 recap. We wanted to talk through a bit of the initial demographics. So I'll kick this over to Vanessa Herrick.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. You should have all received this initial post-event demographic data. We've just included some screenshots here of overall data from all attendees, and then it's broken down on the next slide into in-person and virtual data. In person, we had just over 10,500 attendees, and virtual registrations around 5,500. So we have a lot of good information coming out in the full event transparency report, which will be available next week. Our sponsor team will share that with all sponsors via email, and it will also be available on the website.
Great, thanks. I want to take a minute and just pause to open up a quick 10-minute discussion on your feedback and general enjoyment of KubeCon. Hopefully it was enjoyment. It ran really well this year, so we're really excited to hear your experience.
So let me kind of jump in here. So this year KubeCon was a little bit different, and I was on the marketing call last year after KubeCon North America, when a lot of us were just kind of over the amount of time that sponsors had to be in the booth. So I kind of want to set this up in a way where we can kind of discuss some of the changes that were made and what you all thought about them, if they were good, how that worked within your own organization, what you thought about that. So kind of the first question I want to throw out there is, what did you think about the timeline, the time frame with the co-located events versus how much exhibit time that you got? So that's kind of like, I want to open it up to everyone. What do you think? How did it go? Did anybody exhibit?
Yeah, hi, my name is Emily Brown. I'm from Influx Data. And I think we had a really good amount of, well, first of all, the layout was really good for us in particular because we were like right on the edge. And so we like literally where it opened up was where our booth was. And so we got to see like everyone who just kind of came in and like, you know, visited us like right then and there. Yeah, so I think the layout was good and I think it lended itself to really good for any exhibitors that were there. I think the breaks were good as well. I loved that like the lunch was served on the floor and then there were break tables and things like that on the side, which again was by us. So for us, it was really good overall as like an expo for the time that the attendees were at the expo.
What did you think since you jumped in about the not having the attendee party, but having it all combined in the one day, like the reception attendee party instead of it being somewhere different?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I don't have any qualms about it. I didn't like miss the reception as an exhibitor, as a participant. You know, I love the bigger events and stuff like that where there's more networking. But as an exhibitor, I didn't miss it.
Awesome. Thank you for your feedback. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Renee from SVA from Germany. We also had a booth at the con and the organization was quite good. At the end of the con, it was quite difficult to reassemble all things and get everything together because of the short timeline, especially if you have a small booth with a lot of small things. You know what I mean?
No.
The booth time stopped at 14:30 or something like this. And we only had 1 hour to get all of our things.
Oh, the packing up,
Yeah.
end of the thing. Okay.
And there was also visitors at the same time when we were start packing again. And yeah, I guess give us half of an hour more would be great.
Okay. That's good feedback. Definitely wrapping up is always the hardest part, right? Throwing things in boxes and trying to get packed. There is some communication in the chat. Julia kind of started saying she didn't like her booth being open during the networking event. Felt like it was a waste of time. Jamie agreed. So did Isabella. And I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that one as well. JFrog, we had a booth. It was very wide, very big open space. We were by bars and we just kind of sat there. So that was a bit of an issue. Did anybody else, in addition to Jamie, Isabella, and Julia, have any issues with the networking party and trying to staff a booth at the same time?
Hi, I'm Sharon from CodeFresh. We had a different experience during the networking time. We were kind of from near one of the bar areas, and it wasn't a time where we were really doing demos, but more just like casually talking to people about their problems. And I think if you position it that way and not like, hey, come here for a demo, but you're more like, hey, we're cool, you're cool, let's grab a drink, let's talk about things in more of like a theory thought leadership way, that helps build some kind of trust with people. And then a few of them came back like the next day or something like that. And that was a little bit more helpful for us, but we definitely weren't like trying to book demos during that time, but more so just like having casual conversations, like grabbing beers with friends about like their pain points.
That's
Hi,
a good.
it's Caroline from Cosmonet. I was just going to add to that. Yeah, it's more difficult for those of us who are in startup land, right? If there's only a few of us who are there at the event anyway, because the event's pretty expensive and you can't send your entire complement. We can't get involved in those networking events if the booth's open, because we've got 2 booths, Wise and Cloud, Cosmonic booth. We all have to staff those. I would say that we don't mind the booths being open from the point of view of we quite like demoing and our booths are always pretty busy. But I think we would quite like to get involved a little bit more in the social stuff. But it's often not possible to do that. I do have a comment also about the cost of WASM Day. From a startup point of view, but I think that you've probably heard that a few times already. But overall, I just loved the rye. I just thought that it was beautiful. The whole setup and the flow was really great. But yeah, those are my comments.
No, that's good to hear. And I think something that we also didn't take into account in terms of like our booth was feeding our staff. And so just like a lot of you, we staffed up really hard in the beginning. And so when the lines were shorter, our team was trying to work a booth, and then the lines got really long and people were just kind of very hungry and cranky. So we mismanaged our time in that aspect. But I think maybe from a CNCF perspective, if we could outline sort of the first hour for demos and the second hour, you know, kind of networking or something, it might be some better direction based on what we're hearing from sponsors trying to participate as well as, you know, demo if they can. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see.
Yeah. And I want to go into the note that Melissa, you just had here about access. There is like a press room at the events, a media room. Was that not an option for your team to go in there to do interviews prior to the opening?
So the tech strong interviews happen like at the show floor. People, I don't think they did it at a press room. I mean, you can see the videos, they're clearly at a booth. And then I know there was another company that did it definitely in their booth. It was like it was an AI, Run AI, there we go. And they definitely did it at the booth, and it's like, that's kind of how it is. I think that's how a lot of them happen. And so like, interestingly enough, like I had a sponsor pass, but like, you know, we ended up actually buying additional passes for the engineers, and like we had someone who like is an engineering manager, and he wasn't able to make it to the one of the interviews because like he technically wasn't allowed back after a certain time of the day around the booth area. And they tended to try to do the interviews when there were fewer people around, because, you know, like it's loud in the middle of the day when like the event hall is like super open, or they would try to do it in the in-between times, you know. So no, I wouldn't say press always used a press room. I would say that's like, they seem to just be set up often at their booths, which is fine. They just assumed that like people would be able to come in before 10:30, or that people would be able to stick around until like after, maybe even after 5.
Okay, well, this is the first time we've received this kind of feedback regarding press and interviews at the booths, and it's something as a team will review. Did you fill out as a sponsor, and I'm going to say this for everyone on this call, filling out the surveys are the best way for us to review and quantify any kind of feedback that we receive on the event. That includes surveys feedbacks, as well as the overall event feedback. So I'm just going to remind everyone, you know, for future events, if you haven't filled out the surveys previously, make sure that you do that for future events. So that way we can kind of review all that feedback and apply, you know, changes where we can make changes. Especially, you know, knowing things like interviews, we do want to help support the community and ensuring that you're able to have access to the press in some ways. So maybe we find a different way for that to happen. Whether I don't want to speculate on what kind of solution we'd come up for, but knowing that that's a pain point, we do want to make sure that we're addressing it. I would love to hear some really great positive things that came out of the event. Like, what was a really awesome experience that you've seen this time around, and the changes that you enjoyed having?
I thought Wasm Day was amazing. I really did. I think it probably was something to do, and what I mean by that is the look and the feel, the food, the catering, the rooms were set up really nicely. I mean, I know the Rye is kind of really set up for that kind of thing, but you have this beautiful area set behind the main area, which was just dressed really well. The lighting was really great. The only complaint I would have about that is that you could really hear between the rooms. So if there was a big round of applause in one room, it would put the speaker off in the other room. But I thought the co-located events, and particularly Wasm Day, was really well done. Really well done.
I think
Great.
that's a good segue
Oh,
into actual sessions. Like, did you all have any issues getting into sessions? What was your feedback on? I know that there were some lines and some wait lists because we had so many attendees. And I will say that echoing the sentiment on the event space, like although we had however many 10,000, 16,000 attendees, it didn't feel like it felt like you could breathe, which I was super appreciative of. Sometimes you get stuck in these tiny little venues, or it's a huge venue and you can't see people. But I thought the size, the locations of the booths and the setup, I thought was really good. But yeah, any other feedback in terms of like sessions that you attended or anything like that? How about we open it up? Does anybody just have anything they want to say, period, about their experience at KubeCon? Kathy, I see you smiling.
From SUSE. I'd like to just give you guys a shout out that my executives enjoyed this KubeCon better than the one in Detroit. So we had, overwhelmingly positive feedback from our executive team about the event and how it was executed and the work that was done to bring it to fruition. So as they were coming back going like, they were questioning things after Detroit, and the CNCF kind of fixed everything for us, and our executives were very happy. So this is some of the feedback I'd like to give you guys.
That's awesome, Robert. We love hearing that. And we're so happy that we were able to have such a positive experience with your executives, and that they came back and were able to see the changes that we made. So we're so happy to hear that. Well, I would like to just take a minute and thank everyone for their feedback today. If you have anything additional that you would like to share with us, you can add it in the chat, of course. But in regards to time, we just want to make sure that we keep this moving. So I'm going to go ahead and move this on to our highlights. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Humans of Cloud Native and pass this over to Charlie Mans so she can talk a little bit more in depth about this great program.
Oh, thanks, Katie. So yeah, just a quick update on our Humans of Cloud Native program. So we've had this running for just a little over a year now. It's been received really well. We've had positive feedback. So we have invigorated our program to actually bring you even more humans of Cloud Native. Katie has very kindly sort of allowed us to partner with the ambassadors to get sort of more amazing folks who are doing some truly incredible things in the community to tell their stories. And our pipeline is now completely booked until KubeCon in North America. So of course, we will still be taking nominations. You can very easily do that by emailing humans@cncf.io. But please note that it may take us a wee while to get back to you, and definitely a couple of months to get those interviews set up. But yeah, if you have any sort of feedback on this program, or you think that someone would be a really great fit, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. I think that's all from me on this one, Katie.
Great. Thanks, Charlie. And then I wanted to hand this over to Christoph to talk about Cilium training. Christoph on the call. He may not be on the call. Mel, are you able to jump in? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so we recently, the Cilium training, we announced at KubeCon Amsterdam, and it became generally available on May 24th. And we worked with Isovalent to promote the course, and it's now open, and we've had lots of registrations for it. So just wanted to give a shout out for this training.
Great, thanks. We're going to move into membership growth. We have a new platinum member. Welcome to HCL Tech. 2 new gold members, EUI and Hitachi. Several new silver members. So welcome to all those new silver members. We're excited to have them. Continuation of silver members and a few new end user members, as well as a nonprofit member and an end user supporting member. And then just a quick update on our acquisitions for that we've seen this year in the past. So just a great slide to kind of take a look at for historical. Moving on to PR and AR, I'm going to hand it over to, is it Jesse or
Yeah,
Katie?
I can take it today. Yeah, so just some highlights from the PR side from KubeCon. It was actually our biggest European event ever in terms of media and analyst attendance. We had 176. Most of those were actually in person. I think we had 118 in person and 56 virtual. And they came from all over the globe, and they actually generated a ton of coverage, more than 4,200 articles, which was a 70% increase from last year's European event. Yeah, and we hosted some events for press and analysts, and then we worked with members and marketing committee members to place more than 65 contributed articles with our media partners, and included more than 75 member announcements in the news package. And then the next few slides just kind of highlight some of the top coverage. Sustainability was a really big topic. It was really popular with the media and analysts alike, along with attendees. So this is just a great article that came out on Forbes. And then another kind of great recap article from one of our French media attendees, Le Monde. And then we just picked out about 15 or so of the top articles here. They said we had more than 4,200 total, and then tracking, we had a ton. So if you want to read through all of them, go ahead, but this is just a few highlights that we shared. And then these were all of the project announcements that we had as well, that we worked with project teams on. And then this is just from our media and analyst survey. Overall attendees were also really happy. Media and analyst attendees were also really happy with the experience. They rated it 4.7 out of 5 and 4.8 out of 5. So they would recommend the event. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Carl from our analyst relations team, who can dive in a bit more.
Perfect. Yeah. In terms of the data coming out of the event, it all looked really, really solid. Had a nice representation of both media and analyst firms. Every major analyst firm globally was there, which is always fantastic to see, which is great for just distributing that thought leadership that y'all are working on so hard on. So at the bottom, we got some really fantastic quotes that press and analysts submitted through that survey. We just asked them about their experience and so on, so that we can always improve it, always looking to make it better for them. And got some really nice feedback. So highlighted some of those. Do you want to jump to the next slide if you don't mind? Sweet. Thank you. So we went through and we pulled out some highlights from the articles that we've already seen coming out from the community. A few key takeaways from the reports. I'll just run through them real quick. The cloud native ecosystem is continuing to grow and is attracting attention in terms of running Kubernetes in production. Kubernetes itself is well on its way to enterprise adoption, and many of the benefits and challenges remain with its many benefits. But there are challenges remaining in terms of operationalizing it at scale. And again, these are just kind of normative data from conversations, reports, and interviews with different analysts throughout the event and after the event. KubeCon 2022 highlighted the expansion of the Linux Foundation in Europe and also demonstrated a significant shift in awareness around data production, protection, and Kubernetes. Some key trends observed at KubeCon by analysts were WebAssembly, generative AI, observability, FinOps, DevOps, platform engineering, and cloud native security. So a few of those are similar to last year that we saw coming out of Detroit, but a few new ones like WebAssembly is popping up and coming up a lot in analyst research. Last one, in terms of big trends that we're seeing coming out in analyst research, it's apparent that cloud native modernization is a top priority for many organizations, according to analyst conversations with CIOs. So that was some interesting conversations that we had at KubeCon. But yeah, definitely a top priority, which is fantastic. If you want to jump to the next slide, that'd be great. Sweet, thank you. So yeah, obviously, as usual, we pulled out a bunch of great research that feel free to go through. Some of it's public, you'll see it marked as blog, and some of it's going to require subscription. Usually that's research. But in terms of quotes coming out of some of those articles and pieces of research, two of my favorite were cloud native. The cloud native world is growing up and filling out, breaking through its youthful vim, even as it delivers on its promise. And that's John Collins from GigaOM, which is a pretty solid research firm in this space. And then another one was KubeCon, Cloud Native Con Europe 2023. We're back in full force this year. As mentioned earlier, it's clear that Kubernetes, with the many benefits it affords, is well on its way to enterprise adoption. That said, there are some challenges that enterprises face when it comes to operationalization of Kubernetes at scale. And that was from the evaluator group. So some nice feedback there in terms of potential pain points on the enterprise scale. If you want to jump to the next slide, that'd be great. Sweet. Thank you. Yeah, so at the top of this, there's some great research from SMP on the economics of containers, and that's open. I believe you can access that even though it's research. And then also Forrester ran a fantastic blog series on WASM following KubeCon, which is definitely worth checking out, and that's open to everyone because it's a blog. To conclude the analyst section, the analyst relations section, I wanted to highlight some research from Lee Sustar that published just pretty recently, because CNCF influenced that report all the way back in Detroit, and it just published like a week or two back. And that just goes to show that analyst research has a lot of inertia behind it. And then although we're seeing a bunch of stuff already coming out from KubeCon, some of the best parts and some of the best thought leadership is going to take months before it actually comes out and starts circulating into the business community. Research cycles are far longer, and it's going to take some time for thought leadership to propagate into the market. But again, thank you all for your time, and thank you all for your efforts with thought leadership. It's really doing it great with the analyst community. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to content marketing, I'd like to hand this over to Libby.
Hey, y'all. We are rocking and rolling in our last month officially now of Q2 with online programs. Looking back in May, we had 5 live streams with an average of 86.4 viewers per session. Those are great numbers for the live views, and that's between YouTube Live and LinkedIn Live. A total of about 3,300 watched minutes and almost 2,000 views year to date between Twitch and YouTube, which is awesome. So your content is being viewed, you're sending great stuff in, so keep using those member benefits and reach out with any questions. We had 12 on-demand webinars and 1 live webinar. Important to note, we're going to open the Q3 calendar dates on June 21st. So mark your calendars. We'll send an email out to this email list as well as a Slack message like we usually do. But June 21st, we will open all the dates for Q3. And thanks to Katie, revamping our ambassador program, which is awesome. We've gotten a few more interested hosts for the live stream. So we're hoping to officially be able to open one more day of shows to increase the available live streams, which I know is a high demand for everyone. So keep your eyes open for those and go ahead and book those dates starting the 21st. And I'll also stick with Cube Weekly. Cube Weekly is doing great still. The open rate is still very high, 19%. Continue sending your articles over to the blog team and to Cube Weekly for considerations, and just keep that going.
Hey folks, and on our end user case studies program, we've had a number of case studies that we've published since we all last met to speak as a committee. So from Ascend, China Mobile Cloud, Oppo, and ClickHouse, which have all been actually on my end so interesting to receive and to put up and share online for you all. So a reminder that you can take advantage of this service. You can share your case studies with the global community. The process is really easy and it's set out on GitHub. So I highly encourage you to do that, especially as we're heading into a couple of KubeCons for Shanghai and also in Chicago. If we could go to the next page, please. And just a quick overview of the blogs as well. So a reminder, our metrics for blogs and case studies are available online for you all at any time. Just click the link on the right-hand side of this slide and you can sort of navigate to choose what timelines you want to see. So the blogs through May, see, we had really fantastic eyes on the page as always. One thing I did want to draw your attention to was our blog highlight for the month with 2,710 views, was how to render Jenkins build parameters dynamically. This is a really interesting one because it was published back in April 2022 and it was a repost. It was first shared on the Infra Cloud blog. So a reminder that as long as you meet the criteria for posting on the blog, you can reshare your content that's already been shared before. So please do consider us when you're thinking about how you want to re-amplify the great work you've been doing. Cool. And back to you, Katie.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Libby. Those are great updates. Going into community programs, just a reminder that community CNCGs, so Cloud Native Community Groups, are back up and running. We're seeing a lot of great meetups happening across the globe. So if you're able to join one in person, I recommend finding one in your location. If you don't see one in your location, feel free to reach out on the community.cncf.io webpage and start a meetup. We would love to have one. Additionally, Kubernetes Community Days, our KCDs, are growing exponentially. We have over 20 KCDs in progress with 3 in exploratory stages. We have several upcoming CFPs, KCD Washington 2023 and KCD Australia. And my apologies, I'll put it in the chat, but we also have KCD UK coming up in July. And then just a quick rundown that we have several that are coming up in your region that we'd like for you to check out. Additionally, we do host a KCD, if Libby, if you want to go to the next slide, a KCD organizer interest group. We've opened this up to meetup organizers as well. So here's some past group calendars that we had with some past conversations, and we will have additional ones on the schedule starting in July. And at this time, I'd like to hand it over to Vanessa to talk through events.
Thanks, Katie. Just a few updates about some upcoming events. We have Cube Day Israel taking place on June 19th in Tel Aviv. Registration is still open and standard pricing ends June 9th. So if you're interested in attending, it's going to be a great event. Please register now. Oh, sorry, back one slide. We also have Cube Day India and Cube Day Singapore coming. We're going to be announcing the dates and locations very soon. We do have the prospectus available for both events, so you can budget and plan accordingly, and we'll share those dates and locations as soon as we can. I know there's a lot of interest around both of those events. We also have KubeCon, Cloud Native Con plus Open Source Summit China coming up. The event is going to be held September 26th through the 28th. September 26th being the co-located event day, and the 27th and 28th being the main conference. Sponsorships are open for this event, and the deadline to sponsor is July 28th. Marketing promotional opportunities close on August 4th. Registration and hotel accommodations will be coming in the coming days, so watch out for that. There will be a CNCF hosted co-located event that will be announced the week of June 15th. We also have sponsor hosted co-located event packages available. If you're a sponsor of the event and you're interested in holding a co-located event on site at the venue where KubeCon is going to be, you can review the prospectus on this link here and then submit your request. Just a reminder that space is limited and it's available on a first come, first serve. So if you're interested, make sure to get that submitted soon.
And Vanessa, there's a question about attendees. Are we still expecting 2,000 attendees for China?
Yes, we are. And sorry, go back one more, just a reminder on the CFP. The deadline to submit is coming up on June 18th, and the schedule will be announced on August 2nd.
And one thing to note is project opportunities at this event. So there will be a project pavilion, and that will be shared the week of June 15th.
Thanks, Katie. All right, and then for KubeCon, Cloud Native Con North America, I think everybody's aware the event's coming up the 6th through the 9th in Chicago. We have a few deadlines coming up. If you're interested in the Diamond Lottery, the deadline for that is this Thursday, June 8th at 11:59 p.m. The lottery will take place on Friday the 9th. Level sponsorship deadline is August 10th and MPOs is August 17th. Registration is going to open today, so just probably later this afternoon. Hotel information is already up on the website. Don't wait, book hotels early. We encourage everyone to register early. In addition, CNCF hosted co-located events. Details are going to be announced in the CFPs, and sponsorships are coming in the next week or so. When registration opens later today, you'll be able to see a list of the CNCF hosted colos that are going to be taking place in Chicago. And then lastly, submit your talk. The deadline is June 18th. So you just have a couple more weeks there to submit, and the schedule would be announced on August 30th.
And I want to take a minute, let me go back to talk about a few additional items regarding KubeCon, Cloud Native Con North America. The first is project opportunities, and then we can, Amanda and Chris, I know that you both kind of noted that you had some feedback from KubeCon EU. So I would love to hear some of that as well, but in regards of project opportunities for KubeCon, Cloud Native Con North America, we will be opening maintainer talks as well as project updates that are on the keynote stage in June. So that information will be shared sometime in around the week of June 18th. You'll receive an email. It's going to go to both maintainers and marketing committee. That email this time around, we did hear that feedback that a lot of projects have marketing support. That information will also be found on the project benefits page that is on the website when it's announced. So when you receive that email, you'll also see the project benefits page on the KubeCon Cloud Native Con website with the information about the maintainer track as well as project updates for the keynote. So we have all the information in one space. Additionally, we will be announcing Other opportunities, so those project meetings, which are project like working sessions, and kiosk and PR support, all that additional information will be shared in early June or in early July. So we're kind of rolling it out in two steps, but we did hear that you want succinct information in one space. So we're pulling all that information together and releasing it as we have it. So at this time, Amanda, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about project opportunities and some feedback. We would love to hear what you have.
Sure, I can do it here, Slack, either way. I know other people also said that they had feedback. I think from the project side, thanks for summarizing some of our feedback so far, just succinct information. For example, when we go to these websites now, Project Pavilion isn't included on anything. So it says solutions showcase, maybe. I don't have it up right now, but it doesn't mention the Project Pavilion. So then what happens is that when you're supporting a lot of projects, questions just start flooding. If, has this been cut? Is this no longer here? What do we need to do from the project standpoint? So just making sure it's clear out of the gate what that footprint's going to be when we put up the initial website would be extremely helpful. And thank you for succinctly putting that together, all of the deadlines, because that will help tremendously. We did have a little bit of issues with shipping stuff into the Project Pavilion. Even though we had the kiosk number and things like that, it ended up over at our booth, which we were able to sort, but it would be nice just if we could get the shipping down. So if there's a kiosk number that, it does go to the kiosk, or if there's other ways in which we should be titling packages so that they get to the kiosk, that would be super helpful. At the meta level, I would say that people are reporting that there is a very large trend in the uptick for people going into the Project Pavilion. I think this is probably as cloud native goes more mainstream, that we're going to see more and more people over in the Project Pavilion. So that was really cool to see. The storage, when they just had half day, there was no storage, so that gets a little bit complicated. Again, this comes down to staffing and people wanting to be a part of KubeCon and learning and teaching during the conference, but also having that project space. It would be nice to have storage even for those half days.
Thank you. That is great feedback, and that's something we'll take a look into what we're able to provide. As you know, this event has some space constrictions to it, so we'll take a look to see if we're able to accommodate the storage, but we can work directly with our shipping provider to help alleviate the problems that you saw with the packages not going to the correct booth. And I want to take a moment to allow anyone else on the call to talk about any other project, engagement updates or any other feedback that they have regarding EU or even forward looking into North America. Okay, wonderful. If there's no additional feedback, you can feel free to add it to the Slack channel. You can also reach out to events@cncf.io with additional feedback, and they can forward that on to the appropriate people. Additionally, I wanted to take a minute for us to talk about the MC networking event. So we did have a networking event at KubeCon EU. We did notice that we didn't have quite the turnout that we expected. So we wanted to take this time to provide a poll to kind of figure out what it is that you would like to do for North America, so we can start planning an event for us to get together.
don't know whether this is the right moment to ask this question, so you can feel free to tell me to pick it up later. But one of the things we were just thinking about there as a team, I was just pinging the team as we were talking about registration. And one of the issues we had was co-located event tickets sold out super early. But one of the limiting factors there is that we quite often get tickets with our speaker passes, right? So we normally have 4 or 5 speakers, and those decisions don't happen until quite a long way down the line. So one of the team asked the question, if we are going to register early to avoid the rush, do we get money back if our speakers are selected, and how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So you can register early. We do encourage that if you are wanting to attend a Colo event, that you should absolutely register as early as you can so you get a spot. If you are accepted as a speaker, we can go ahead. You would email registration@cncf.io, and they would apply that code to your account and then refund you the money.
That's amazing. That's great news. Thank you very much.
Great. And it looks like we're kind of holding steady with this poll. So it seems that everyone would like to have a happy hour after sessions on one of the days. So we'll go ahead and look into that and get information out early so we can have everyone attend for that. Perfect. And then I'll go ahead. I think, Libby, if you want to go to the next slide. Yep, training and certifications. Just some updates on the growth of training for this year. I'll allow each of you to take some time to kind of peruse each of these stats. We've seen some amazing growth, as well as us adding in the Cilium training. So we're excited to see the new rollout for things coming forward. Perfect. Yeah. And then I'll, at this point, conclude our call. Is there any additional questions at this time? I did see, Thomas, correct, there is no virtual booth component for KubeCon North America.
Thank you.
All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your feedback and enjoyed getting to give you updates. I know it's been a little while since we've gotten together and talked. So we appreciate you joining us and being part of this call. And we would like to take a minute. I think, Lori, you wanted to talk about topics for next call.
No, I think we're going to do that via Slack. We'll just kind of go over that through Slack.
Great. Then be aware or be on the lookout for an update on topics for the next call, as well as link to this recording and slides. We did share them via email and on the Slack channel. So we'll be sure to share an update post this call as well. Thanks, everyone.